Imagine, one day, you wake up and you have access to not just one intelligent assistant, but many. One asks questions to clarify your goal. Another perfectly remembers your past decisions. Another carefully checks your assumptions. Another actively searches for evidence to prove you wrong. Another reviews the final plan. And another, well, it simply refuses to proceed because a safety boundary was crossed.
Suddenly, you feel surrounded by an entire ecosystem of intelligence, all working in perfect concert. It genuinely feels like magic. But as the glow of this incredible capability settles, as you watch these tools organize and optimize your work faster than you've ever thought possible, the quiet awe kind of begins to fade. And from that silence, something else appears.
A deeper, much heavier question starts to emerge. Think about it. If the machine can reach and search and gather, if every single helper in the room becomes smarter, faster, and more capable, who actually remains responsible? If the tool does the thinking, who carries the consequence?
Most conversations about AI, they begin with technology, with algorithms or the latest hype. But to find the answer to that heavy question we just asked, we have to look somewhere completely unexpected. In this explainer, we're diving into The Super Agent Harness, Book 3, by Ravindra Nayak. He takes us away from all the noise of the digital world and asks us to step back into a quiet space to build our understanding from absolute scratch. He poses the ultimate question. Can many intelligent helpers support human thinking without turning the human into just a passenger?
Okay, Section 1. The Bench and the Helpers. A workshop, not a giant brain. To truly wrap our heads around this, the book introduces us to a curious learner named Arjun and his wise patient mentor, Mira. But get this, they aren't standing in some cold server room. They're actually standing at a simple, physical workbench examining a complex wiring harness. It's absolutely a brilliant metaphor. Because when complexity grows, you have to return to a single function. You really have to learn to see the hidden paths of intelligence before you can ever hope to automate them. When you're looking at all this overwhelming complexity, it's so easy to ask, well, if we have all these helpers, couldn't an AI just act as one giant, all-knowing brain and design the whole system all by itself? But the reality is completely different. A truly capable super agent workflow is not one massive brain doing all the work at once. That's a total myth. It's a workshop. It is a carefully coordinated team of small specialists, each with a very specific job, and perhaps more importantly, very specific boundaries. Moving on to Section 2. Support is not authority. Breaking the super engineer myth. You see, the term super agent can be a really dangerous trap if you believe the word super means the machine takes over the engineering entirely. A tool can explain things, it can compare, it can organize incredibly well. But the real power, it lies in coordination, not in pretending the machine has suddenly become the master. We absolutely have to break this misconception that specialization equals accountability. Let's think about this practically for a second. A helper tool can gather literal mountains of data. An agent can draft a flawless, perfect summary. That is coordination. But a language model, it cannot stand in front of a safety board and explain why a failure happened. A tool cannot own a consequence. Only the human can choose, and only the human can carry the weight of responsibility. Actually, let's pause right here for a crucial first principles truth. This is something that shifts the entire perspective. It is just so easy to be mesmerized by a tool that generates a quick, fluent answer. But a fluent answer from a machine is absolutely not the same thing as proven engineering evidence. Because, think about it, a demo proves that something can happen once. A system proves that something can be depended on. We simply cannot borrow trust from a machine just because its output looks confident. And that brings us to Section 3, the clarity of layered thinking. Why bundles overwhelm us. When you look at an entire workflow, right? The tools, the paths, the agents, it usually looks like a chaotic bundle of wires. It's completely overwhelming. You might ask yourself, how do I even begin to build this system? Well, if you try to fight the whole bundle at once, your attention is simply going to collapse. To see clearly, we have to separate the layers, step by step. First, there's purpose, then roles, then memory, tools, order, and finally, review. You don't just throw an AI at a problem and hope for the best. You have to intentionally structure the intelligence. This is how complexity is tamed, step by step, without ever losing human control. This right here is the absolute essence of layered thinking. It isn't some trick to make things sound more complicated than they are. It's actually a beautiful technique to make them approachable. The goal is to separate a really confusing whole into distinct responsibilities that you, the human learner, can actually inspect, question, and truly understand.
Section 4. Purpose comes first, before tools, before automation. We really need to slow down here for a minute, because this is exactly where most systems fail quietly. Purpose comes first, way before you pick a tool, before you write an automation, before you even ask for an answer. You absolutely must know why.
Think of it this way. Without human purpose, autonomous agents are just optimizing motion without meaning. They're running incredibly fast, but in a direction that hasn't even been chosen yet. A machine does not have intention. It only has the intent to optimize whatever it is told to optimize. So if the purpose is weak from the start, well, every single helper that follows is going to become weak too.
Let's break this down practically. Are you trying to clarify a note, review a route, sort out your assumptions, or build a brand new plan? You see, the exact same system of AI helpers looking at the exact same data changes entirely depending on what you actually need to achieve. The same harness produces totally different workflows simply because your purpose alters the path.
Section 5. Memory is not wisdom. The danger of clean pages. Now, once the purpose is crystal clear, we have to confront how the system remembers. It is just so easy to believe that if a machine stores everything forever, it somehow understands it, right? But we humans often confuse memory with understanding. And a machine's memory, if we leave it undisciplined, can carry us so confidently in the completely wrong direction.
So, how do we fix this? Well, we map out honest thinking. Think about setting up columns in a simple physical notebook. You'd have facts, missing information, assumptions, decisions, evidence, and open questions. An assumption is just a guess. A decision is definitely not a fact. By separating these elements into distinct columns, uncertainty stays visible. The whole process remains honest.
There is a really profound danger here that we need to talk about. Bad memory often looks much cleaner than honest memory. If you delete open questions just to make the page look neat and tidy, you're actually creating a false truth. Storage is just keeping information forever without any context. True memory, though, true memory is returning context and judgment to the present moment with real purpose.
Now, as the layers of the super agent build up, as all these helpers coordinate perfectly, and as the memory returns the exact right context, it kind of brings us back to that unspoken anxiety we touched on earlier, that underlying fear of our own obsolescence. You have to wonder, if we hand the machine our tools, our memory, and our coordination, what remains uniquely human?
What remains is meaning, care, ethics, context, and consequence. Tools change incredibly rapidly, but the true foundations of human capability, they don't. As Ravindra Nayak so beautifully writes, the goal is not to become impressive. The goal is to become capable, responsible, and genuinely useful. So I'll leave you with this. As you build your own workshop of intelligent helpers, are you training them to do your thinking, or are you designing them to protect your judgment?